Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Infinity, and this is Magnetize Yourself, where we talk about life, love, spirituality, and of course, the law of attraction. There seems to be so many kind of swirling energies around this full moon that we've experienced as of yesterday evening. Now, of course, you can do the calculations to see when exactly that peak lunation of the full moon was in your particular geographical area. But I know that many of you listening have been impacted by some of these energies. So if you have been feeling the intensity of the full moon in some type of way, I would love to hear how you've been doing in the comments under the video. There is this theme coming up. Well, there's a lot of different themes, and I do want to share some of that as we do get into pulling the cards, just to give some context for some of what our collective is going through and experiencing right now. By the way, I do think on a bit of a different note that it's so beautiful that we do tend to share these collective experiences, because I know it's so easy to feel so alone and isolated at times on this journey. So I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you who are here, because this channel is really a co-creation, and I have so loved growing together, and I am always constantly setting positive intentions for everyone who's connected to this community in some way to hopefully support you along your journey, to help you to manifest more of your desires in life. So if you do want to be part of that kind of virtual community that we're creating here through YouTube, I invite you to do so by subscribing to the channel. Okay, so wow, so much information coming up that might actually kind of reflect how you've been personally feeling around the full moon. For someone listening, you might feel like you're kind of bouncing all over the place, either mentally or emotionally. I'm hearing feeling all of this stuff coming up for you, for lack of a better word, mentally and emotionally, almost like you're spinning out a little bit, but then physically feeling very stagnant, feeling maybe as though you are procrastinating, or really that word procrastination, that's just a human ego judgment for what very often when we are closely attuned to our own intuition and we are judging ourselves as procrastinating, oftentimes we are intuitively recognizing that the energy is not lined up yet to make that next move or to make that next decision. So of course, always trust that intuition within you, even more so than your own egoic judgments of yourself. But with that being said, you might be feeling this almost opposite energy where there's a part of your mind going crazy with thoughts, with ideas, with emotions, and then physically you might be feeling very heavy or very dense. I know that I've been picking up that many people might be feeling almost like they're walking around with like weights strapped to their legs or something, like just feeling like you're moving through water, this kind of heavy sort of energy. And yet mentally, there's so much going on. And know that at times, this kind of mismatch happening here, which by the way, goes so much deeper than the mental plane, this kind of what I'm calling a mismatch is also something that's been happening spiritually. So for many of us, our energetic body has expanded beyond where our physical body has currently caught up to. And when this occurs, when there is that catching up process, we can actually feel a kind of deep anxiety physically even, because we can feel as though there's something off, there's something wrong with us physically. We might even experience certain strange, unusual physical symptoms or sensations out of the blue that we might discover are what people would call psychosomatic. So, for example, when you go to explore these things with a medical professional, which of course I am not a doctor or medical professional, so I always recommend exploring any potential medical causes. But very often what happens is those of us experiencing this phenomenon where our energy body is expanding so quickly, but our physical body isn't yet catching up, it can actually cause certain symptoms or sensations physically that then when we go to explore them, we're told by doctors that they are psychosomatic, that they are caused by, for example, anxiety or something of that nature. When spiritually what's going on is we're actually expanding and being upgraded energetically, and our body is working overtime to keep up with that expansion. Expansion and changes have to take place within us through this expansion process spiritually. That spiritual process has to be reflected physically as well. So it's almost as though our very DNA is changing, that we are altering at this deep cellular level to some degree. And as a result of that, it's almost like that caterpillar going through the metamorphosis period, where we can go through times where we feel very disoriented, where we feel as though our whole world has gone dark, like that caterpillar in the cocoon. We can call ourselves stuck or stagnant or procrastinating or spiraling or whatever human judgment word we want to use to label that experience, when in actuality, we are being upgraded and our physical body is catching up to those upgrades. So that is one major theme coming through during this full moon. But also, there is a message around, and by the way, I do want to let you know as well, this reminds me of something I shared on Instagram yesterday, which is a post I've been meaning to share for a while, because we talk a lot on the channel how so often what looks to the ego like a spiral, like we're spiraling, is actually a spiral staircase leading us up. And just like if you looked down from the top of a spiral staircase and then flattened that image to a two-dimensional image, it would look like just that spiral. But when you look at it from that next dimension, when you add that dimension to the scene, you can actually see that it is a spiral staircase moving upward. And that feels significant because it's almost as though someone listening is being guided to allow yourself to see your growth and your life from a different dimension, from a different perspective. So maybe to release some of those self-judgments that you could have picked up from your former belief systems, from people around you, and to really allow yourself to attempt to see something that you're going through from a different perspective, to see how something that you might be judging yourself for could actually be something that is upgrading you, moving you up that spiral staircase. But on Instagram, I shared a post that basically said the ego, and it showed that spiral image and said that the ego says we're spiraling, but then the soul, and it showed the spiral staircase, the soul says that we're upgrading. So if you do want to see that image on my Instagram or follow me in general for more future inspiration and updates, my Instagram is Magnetize Yourself, all one word, spelled exactly like my channel name. So I am going to be shuffling the cards. I can't believe we haven't actually pulled a card yet. It's very unusual for these readings to not have pulled a card almost 10 minutes in, but I know that many of those messages were manifested through by those of you who are tuned into the reading. So thank you for sharing your energy here. Okay, so another theme that's been coming out, I'm going to share this while I'm shuffling, but a second theme of this full moon has been soul ties. And it's interesting because we spoke in Monday's reading. I can't remember if it was the main reading or the Patreon extended reading because, of course, for those of you who are new, I do channel Patreon readings along with these main readings every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Of course, if you do want to join me on Patreon as well, I will be leaving a link to this extended Patreon reading in the pinned comment and description box underneath the video. But we spoke about how when you decide to cut the soul tie to a certain person, which that word cut is so extreme, I like to think of it as releasing yourself and the other person from the unhealthy or overly draining or obsessive aspects of your connection that might be blocking you from having a more pure connection, or in some cases, just moving on peacefully with your life, just depending on the context. What I mean by the context is, yes, we can have a soul tie with a soul mate, meaning someone who we do have the potential to share a beautiful, pure, harmonious connection with, but we might also have this soul tie with them on the surface that is causing this drain, that is causing unhealthy or codependent attachment, etc. And so when you release yourself from a soul tie, when there's also an underlying soulmate energy bond, that energy bond beneath the surface will remain untouched. In fact, it will then be able to shine through in its more pure form in the physical 3D world, which means your connection with that individual can actually improve. It's kind of like clearing the air with that person. But in cases where there isn't that underlying soulmate bond, meaning if the connection's very karmic, very toxic, or just very physically based, there's not really that soul similarity component, then when you release yourself from the soul tie, it may be that you just peacefully move forward with your life. But it's interesting, this theme is coming up again right around just following the lunation of this full moon, because what I'm getting here is that some of you listening may have recently allowed a certain person to leave your life, or maybe someone had a conversation with you that was very difficult and honest, and you held your ground in that conversation. You were not argumentative or harsh. You were simply honest and authentic about your own needs, your own desires, and maybe they didn't line up with what that person could offer you or what that connection could offer you. And there was that moment of shared honesty that may have led to some kind of sadness, because that person may have disconnected or decided to walk away, or maybe there's just some kind of silence here at the moment in the physical world. I feel I might just be speaking to a small group here, but for whoever I'm speaking to, this silence is happening, or this sadness is coming in because you had the courage to stand your ground on something that mattered to you. Now, of course, this could be platonic. This doesn't have to be romantic. But for many of you, this may be a romantic person in your life. Maybe you were honest with this person about what you desired out of a love connection or did not desire. And this person maybe couldn't meet you where you were. Maybe you were just honest or open about something else in your life. I feel like this sadness is coming because you laid forth some kind of standard. You raised the bar in some sense, and it appears at the moment that this person is not rising to meet you at that bar. But I'm hearing you didn't make a mistake. Don't regret the fact that you raised the bar when it comes to connecting with you. You have had so much courage in being honest and open, specifically about your own needs and desires. I feel I'm speaking to someone here who has really struggled to allow themselves to be honest, even with themselves, about what they want. Maybe you came from an environment, a family, a background where you felt as though you weren't allowed to have needs or to have desires or to vocalize them. And this may have caused you to feel kind of stepped over in relationships or even in friendships. But you're healing your heart, and it's coming through speaking your truth, but specifically holding these standards for your needs and desires, being honest with yourself and with others, even if it causes some kind of disconnect or conflict. And again, this isn't just in your romantic life. This is in friendships, in the workplace as well. This is a massive spiritual upgrade. It's almost like you might even surprise yourself by this moment of just confidence on your end, where you confidently raise that bar or that standard. And it's not even something that comes across as forced or argumentative. It's just clear, calm, and direct, because this newfound sense of confidence has come from this spiritual upgrade, which again has been a result of you healing your heart, specifically possibly from a past of codependency. For some of you listening, reaching outside yourself in the past for validation. You've healed those dynamics through speaking your truth or connecting with the energy of your own truth. And I'm hearing not being afraid to heal on your own. I'm not sure how that connects or why for someone, but I just feel as though there's been this major breakthrough, and yet at the same time, there is this sadness, because I just can't shake this feeling that there's someone here that recently you may have felt disconnected from because of these higher standards, because it's almost like you wouldn't give them something that they wanted because it would be contrary to what you intuitively know is good for your soul at the moment. And that saddened this person and saddened you at the same time, but yet you're not willing to break your own self-trust, essentially, to break your own newfound promise to yourself that you're going to allow your needs and your desires to be met. And the reason that I'm getting this element of illusion around this situation is because I feel that something is not what it seems. I feel as though it appears like this person has not risen to the challenge, but that might actually be the illusion that's coming up here, because every time I'm talking about this situation in the reading, I just get this sense peripherally that this isn't the whole story of what's happening beneath the surface. So we are going to get deeper into that. But I also want to let you know that because this process of upgrading is feeling highly spiritual, it's feeling like invisibly but powerfully you are changing a lot behind the scenes, whether you realize it consciously or not. So in the extended version of the reading on Patreon, we are going to be having a conversation with your spirit guides, your higher self, whatever cosmic forces you personally connect with, just to discuss these changes you are experiencing, anything else you need to know about what is happening at this moment in your spiritual ascension process. You know what I just keep hearing is hold your ground. So I just am getting the sense that there's almost this temptation to make an exception for someone here, to lower your standards for someone, to kind of like change course away from how your intuition has been leading you, because you're aware that someone wants something out of you. And you may feel a lot of love or care for this person. But I keep hearing, I heard spiritual exercise. This might actually be a sort of spiritual training exercise in holding these higher standards for yourself. And this might actually inspire this person to reach for a higher version of their own self. That is part of this illusion that's coming up here. So with man holding a coin upright, I'm seeing that someone here is going through an awakening that started in their sacral and solar plexus because of you. Now, because this is masculine imagery, although of course the labels divine masculine or divine feminine for the purpose of these readings can apply to either gender, so you can take them as they connect. We all do have a balance internally of both energies, so this could apply to your internal masculine or internal feminine, but I am getting that most of you listening will resonate with the divine feminine. So more than likely, I will be putting that term divine feminine in the title of the reading video, just so those of you who are divine feminines can find this more easily. But in that case, this would most likely be a masculine energy. Of course, reverse those labels if it is switched for you. But it's almost like I'm hearing secret awakening. This person is going through a secret awakening, and this sadness that they're feeling seems to be propelling them forward into a higher level of spiritual consciousness here. I'm hearing self-reflection. The sadness they're feeling about you or about this situation might actually be pushing them to reflect on something very powerful. Yeah, with unawakened, this person has been unawakened. And although they might seem not ready yet, this card says your twin flame or soulmate is not ready yet. So I definitely sense there's most likely some kind of soul connection here, whether it is a twin flame or a soulmate. It's like this person has been living unaware of something, but then suddenly they're feeling all of this emotion that is so powerful and telling, because it's meant to indicate to them that there's something deeper going on here. So while on the surface it might feel to them like a kind of sadness or longing, it's actually meant to speak to a deeper spiritual dynamic that they are meant to be exploring and diving into, because it's going to shift them out of this unawakened state of being. I also feel that connecting with you has deeply inspired them to aim higher in their life generally. This might be someone who is very much just apathetically floating through life and didn't really have any clear goals for themselves or visualizations of what they wanted their life to look like. And then you came along, and suddenly with the card Big Goals, it's like you have inspired them to reach for more in their physical, literal, material life. I'm hearing that as they are working or as they are going about moving towards these goals, they are thinking of you almost 24/7. It's almost like you are, I'm seeing one of those inspirational quote posters or something, or like a vision board, but it's almost like you are their mental vision board. You are that image that they look at mentally to push them to keep going towards these big goals that they've created for themselves. But again, I'm feeling like you told this person no, either energetically, with your actions, with your inaction. It seems like you may have chosen to deny something that this person wanted or thought they wanted in the moment, because your intuition told you to, because it just felt out of alignment with you. And there was the temptation there, because I do sense that you may have had a lot of love for this person. You might still have that love for them, which might be what's bringing about this sadness. And yet you've learned to love yourself more, and also to recognize the value in following your own intuition. You've learned that when you follow your intuition, even when it doesn't fully make sense, it ultimately ends up working towards the highest good of everyone involved, including this person here. So what I feel you may not see coming about this situation with compromise, transformation, and solitude is that through this solitude, first of all, if this is a romantic person for you, then your guides want you to know that they are not entertaining other options here. For this person, they feel that there is no one for them but you. So they are treating this as a time of solitude, going within themselves. And during this time, a deep transformation is happening internally. And this is actually going to lead them to want to come back in with some kind of compromise. With the compromise card here, I feel as though this person may have come off as being a bit cold, harsh, or rigid with the way that things may have ended or separated between you. But I feel they'll be coming back in a much more flexible state of being, meaning like if it seemed like things were over because they wouldn't budge on something, then you're going to find that they're actually much more flexible than they appear to be, that they're much more willing to compromise here. This is such a complex energy in a way, so only you can know how this is going to connect for you personally. But I also feel with caring connections in the reverse position, the spiritual bond this person feels to you makes it so that they feel they are completely incapable of having affectionate feelings towards other potential partners. And that is what is weighing the heaviest on their mind at this time. Can I get more information? It's like they're coming to peace with this, with storm warning in the reverse position. There's something they were definitely holding back from you in your last interaction. I want to say for many of you, I'm not sure why I'm getting there's something about your most recent interaction, whatever that was, whether it was in dream state, over text, over the phone, or in person. But there's something that they were really holding back. I don't feel like they were lying as much as not fully expressing something that they were very intensely feeling. But with the goddess of the moon, I see that your light is illuminating whatever they were holding back. I feel you may have already intuitively known it. Maybe you second guessed it in that interaction, wondering if you were correct about what you were sensing from this person because they weren't speaking it or sharing it out loud. But this might be your sign of confirmation that you were correct on what you intuitively deduced that this person might be feeling, even though they weren't showing it. And I feel like this person just feels almost this sense of exposure by you, not in a negative sense, but in the sense that even though they may have not been fully open about how they were feeling, they're sensing that you were able to guess it or able to feel it. They just feel so intensely seen by you, which simultaneously intrigues them and pulls them in, but is also really intimidating as well. So that might be playing into this dynamic where this person might constantly be kind of re-entering your orbit. I'm seeing like outer space and something just being constantly pulled back into your gravity. If you are like a planet in space, this is someone like always orbiting you, always being pulled back into your gravity. And I'm just hearing it's not over. That's not over. Even if it feels like it is for some of you listening. It's very interesting. For some people I'm picking up on here, there might be this sadness as though things are said and done, as though something's tied up, but that's so far from the case. So in the extended version of the reading on Patreon, I will be going deeper into how this situation is not over, as the message here is saying how this person is thinking or was thinking and feeling during that last interaction. Now, again, you most likely picked up on whatever those thoughts or feelings were, but this might be a sign of confirmation for your intuition. I'll also be channeling into anyone or anything we pick up on who might be energetically connecting with you at this time. So as always, the link to all of those additional messages and pieces of information on Patreon is in the pinned comment and description box underneath this video. For now, I'm going to close the first reading here with the Rumi card, Blessing of Zara. So I'm just going to read a bit from the guidebook here. And the guidebook here says, let go of thought Don't take it into your heart. You are naked, and thought is like ice. You use thought to seek release from suffering and pain, while thought is the cause of your suffering and pain. The realm of creation is outside the scope of thought. O foolish one, see the opus and behold the beauty. Look in the direction from which the images flow. See the brook that causes the wheel to turn. Rumi. And the guidebook also says, your soul needs better quality food. It has been detoxing. You have been shedding old thoughts, feelings, pains, and struggles. Memories of the past have been flooding out of your soul like parasites being expunged. And now, your soul thus cleansed is in need of genuine nourishment to restore it to full radiance and vitality. Love will feed your hungry soul. Nothing less shall suffice. You are being given a blessing of Zara, of radiance, of brightness. This blessing has a purpose. It is to clear out that which would obstruct your full unfoldment, to support the divine jewel of your soul in shining. So that feels like a beautiful place to close the reading. Thank you so much again for tuning in today. If I do resonate with you, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, join our beautiful community of like-minded, conscious, creative beings here on YouTube. You can also follow me on Instagram at Magnetize Yourself. And if you would like to continue now with me to the extended version of the reading on Patreon, the link to do so is in the pinned comment and description box underneath the video. Otherwise, I am sending you all so much love today. Have a beautiful remainder of your day and week, and I will connect with you here again in Friday's reading.